types of content we're going to cover are native accessibility settings, which just basically means these are settings that are built into your operating system, and something to keep in mind as far as learning assistive technology or access technology or inclusive technology is that it's built into your operating system, and that you are actually really learning an operating system. So there's a certain level of complexity. Sometimes folks take that for granted, but it's really something to kind of keep in mind when you may see someone struggling with learning that. So let's get started. I'm gonna be sharing my screen with my iPhone and going over some helpful settings for folks with low vision first. And then we're gonna move on to settings for the other platforms that I mentioned as well. Okay, so.
And for those of you who just came in, if you have questions and you want to put them in the chat, we'll answer them during like the Q&A. So you don't have to remember them. If you want to just stick them in the chat, you can do that, or you can remember them until the end.
Okay. I'm assuming folks can hear me. Is that right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. So one thing to consider if you're helping someone out with vision loss is to customize some of the basic settings in your iOS device. One setting that's pretty helpful is if you change the contrast or the background. When you change the background, it provides greater visibility for the person to be able to look at their applications on their device. Those are simple settings to adjust. They're very basic settings, but they're extremely helpful. So the way that you can do that is just by going into wallpaper and then choosing the setting that you want. Right now, I'm actually using Zoom, which I'm going to cover in as well. But you'd go into wallpaper and you'd customize that setting. Sometimes a black background is very, very helpful. So the next settings that we want to take a look at, actually that could be under display and brightness. So let's see here. These are also helpful settings here, display and brightness. You can have light and you can have dark. So if we change it to a dark contrast here, that's also going to help with visibility. So I'm going to go back and tap on that. Then we have something called night shift that we can adjust as well. That may make reading at nighttime a little bit easier. Okay, adjusting your auto lock can be helpful as well because you don't want it to go off every 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and then have to sign in again. Again, just another helpful setting that you can adjust. Right, text size. We can go here and customize our text size. And so right now I have it pretty low. So I'm gonna adjust that slightly to about 50%. And we can see the difference up here. I'm gonna hit the back button and then we can kind of see the difference here as well. The text is much clearer and easier to see. Okay, bold text. I'm not gonna turn that off, but here you can see, I don't know, maybe if you do have an iPhone, you can compare the difference between the text. The bold text, again, makes visibility better. I do believe that it improves visibility. Okay. There's a view here for certain phones, certain iPads called zoomed. And that's going to change the size of the way your home screen appears and the way certain things appear. The best way to describe it, it would be like adjusting scaling on your PC or on your Mac. And so if I actually change that, I'm just concerned that it would mess the setting up. But let's give that a try. Okay, so I changed that, and I'm gonna just go back, and it's telling me use standard here. So changing display zoom will restart your iPhone. So I'm gonna cancel out of that. That's kind of what I was concerned about. So this is the recommended setting here. And so I would go with zoom. It's going to increase the size of your applications. It improves visibility. So I'm going to go back. Okay. So this is under view, and as we go back here to the top, display and brightness, and then we go back just to our settings. So again, some really helpful basic settings that will help improve your visibility for folks with low vision. And tonight we're going to cover the full spectrum of vision loss, from low vision, which is pretty high level acuity, to legal blindness, to no vision. Okay. So now let's go to accessibility. So this is a setting that you'll find in both your iOS and your Android devices. And it's a setting that's fairly important to get familiar with. So I'm going to start with Zoom and then get back to VoiceOver. So let's tap on Zoom here. So Zoom, and I've been using it throughout the process, throughout the demonstration thus far. So it's a 3-finger gesture that allows you to increase the size of all of the information on the screen. This is what I call comprehensive magnification. There are 3 types of magnification. One of them is comprehensive magnification. And the reason it's so helpful is because it allows you obviously to see everything that's on the screen. That includes menus, for example. The other way to increase the size of things is simply by increasing the size of the text like we did earlier. So let's see, let's go to this as an example. So this is a shortcut that I set, which I'll go over as well, because this is also very helpful because it provides ease of access to the customization of specific settings. I'm going to go to my control center, swipe down. I put down here this AA. This allows me to customize my text size on demand. So I'm going to increase it to full size. And here we can clearly see the difference in the size of the text. I'm going to go back. And again, this is great because it's very easy to access this particular setting. Of note, it's important to remember that strong users of magnification are people that toggle back and forth between different levels of magnification. So they're using the technology for different functions, different purposes, different situations. The last way that we can magnify something is simply by, I'll use a picture as an example. This is the simplest way to do it, is simply by pinching in or out of something. So for example, here, I can pinch in or out.
Alert from calendar. Oration pod a la braise.
I could simply pinch in and out of a setting of this video, or a picture, or a web browser within the body of a web browser. So those are the 3 ways that we can magnify using iOS. So I'm going to exit out of here. Something also to keep in mind, let's say you're a volunteer and you're helping out a person for the first time, and you want to help them to get familiar with some of these accessibility features. One exercise that I recommend folks do is this. So I'm gonna go to my home screen, and I usually start on the home screen for a lot of different reasons. One, there's really good visibility on the home screen. So depending on the level of vision loss, this is a pretty good space to actually provide some basic training on. So for example, if someone had very limited vision, for example, but they could still read something depending on the level of magnification, we could zoom in here on a particular app, and the person can then access that app. This also gives you a good indicator of where that person's vision is. At least functionally speaking, in a very limited sense and specific to your display or your digital environment, but it can be useful. And this is the kind of reading that I call scan reading, because it allows you to get pertinent information if you're singularly dependent upon vision at this point. But that information is still very useful, even though it's very difficult to manage. So this is one really good exercise to do. The other piece of this exercise, and we're going to zoom out, is exploring all the four corners of your digital environment here. In this case, it's our home screen. And so the way that I'm doing this is I tap with 3 fingers 2 times. I swipe up to this corner here with 3 fingers. And then I can navigate the menu here. And then I have the person identify the specific apps that are on the top left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner, and the center. This is what I call navigation and orientation. And we actually always teach that in one way or another. We're always teaching navigation and orientation principles. Another built-in native accessibility feature, again, these are built-in solutions to your operating system, which was a significant, although be a cliche, game changer when they started doing inclusive design to these devices. It's just made such a big difference because you don't have to buy a third-party solution that's really, really expensive. They started taking accessibility seriously. So another feature that's really helpful, it's in settings. And we're going to go to accessibility again. And we're going to go to something called speak content. Okay. And I said it wrong. It's spoken content, and that's partially because they've changed the name several times. So when we enable this setting here on the right, I hope people aren't getting a headache as I'm moving around. I'll try to go a little slower. So spoken content allows you to perform a 2-finger swipe down from the top left-hand corner of your screen, and then the information will be read to you. So this is a feature that I call reading on demand, similar to changing the text size on demand, because you can do it in almost any situation when you want to do it, when you want to apply the specific function. And this will become even more important because there's a distinction between on-demand reading and comprehensive screen reading. Okay, So I'm going to go here and enable the controller so that you can see better how this works. So this is our controller here on the top right. I'm going to tap on it, and then I'm going to hit the play button.
Show controller on. The speech controller allows quick access to speak screen and speak on touch. Expand the controller and press play to start reading all content. Expand the controller and tap on the finger icon to start speak on touch. Then tap or drag anywhere on the screen to hear the content under your finger. Lift your finger.
Okay. So you can either do that with a 2-finger swipe down, or if you find it easier, because some folks have more of a difficult time with the gestures, you can just enable the speak controller. This is also customizable. So for example, if you find it's reading too fast, tap on the controller, hit play.
Finger to exit speak on touch. Controller actions. Long press, speak on touch, double tap, read all content, idle opacity, 35%.
So here, I lowered the speech rate. It did have to toggle through. So I'm gonna hit play again.
Show controller on. The speech controller allows quick access to.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it, and it's here on the right-hand corner where I'm focused. And you can just tap on that and it will customize the different speed levels for the screen reader. So I'm gonna disable that because I no longer need that. You have other ways to customize it as well on the bottom. You can enable a long press to do some functions. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna turn it off now. But if you can use it on the internet, you can use that pretty much globally or everywhere on your phone. It doesn't work quite as well as VoiceOver, but it is really, really good. I'm gonna go back now. And I did skip one particular setting that I wanted to cover. So I'm gonna just go back quickly before I move on to VoiceOver. So remember how I said we are always teaching navigation? Oh, I didn't disable this. I'll leave it there for now. Just gonna move it down here so it's out of our way. All right, so remember how I was mentioning navigation and orientation. So although it's not necessarily an accessibility feature, it does help. I look at it as more like a universal design principle. It's just really good design to have a search function. And it's really important to become familiar with maximizing its use, because it expedites the process of finding what you're looking for. So I do look at it as a navigation and orientation principle because it expedites things. So if we swipe down and then tap here, we can just simply type in a search result, or use another feature here, which is our microphone button, to simply dictate something. It's not going to work now because we have Zoom enabled, but that's another feature that I really do consider an accessibility feature because it is speech to text, and that is a feature you want to enable as well. And so let's say I'm looking for something. I'll just type in anything here. Let's see, TEXT. Then it's going to populate a list, and it's a nice ordered list, and now I can explore it, and I can select from that list within the context of settings. So again, just another good navigation and orientation solution here. You can also access your search from your home screen. The function is different because this has more of a global effect, where you're going to be exploring search results from the internet as well as your operating system. But again, just another really quick way to access information and quickly get there. All right, we recently, and I'm not going to cover the subject, but I just will mention it because I think it's really helpful. We recently did a class using a Bluetooth keyboard with VoiceOver and covered the same subject. Again, really helpful to use some of these features with a Bluetooth keyboard. It gives you a different dimension. And it also makes searching even easier. So now we're going to go from reading on demand to comprehensive screen reading. Back to accessibility. Quick FYI, a lot of these settings can be entered by using Siri. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'm not doing it because I'm on Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to tap here, and here are our VoiceOver settings. Something to keep in mind, it's easy to get cognitive overload when you're first working with VoiceOver. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind when you're first learning the application, the whole screen reader here, it's important to keep in mind that the best way to think about this is VoiceOver changes the way your operating system works. So for example, right now, if I wanted to navigate to a page from my home screen, I'll just exit out of here. I simply swipe right with one finger and it takes me to whatever page I want to go to. That's going to be different when we turn on VoiceOver. So keep that in mind. With VoiceOver, you have one finger, two finger, three finger base gesture commands. VoiceOver is a comprehensive screen reader that is controlled by gesture-based commands. So let's enable VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on. Settings. Accessibility. Back button.
I'm going to go home.
Message.
And the way I did that is a little bit more complicated than it used to be. If you had an iPhone or an iPad with a home button, you just simply hit your home button and it would take you back home. Now with your haptic feedback, I had to swipe up and hear for a second beep sound from the bottom middle and almost a third of the way up with my index finger, and then it took me back home. So it's a little bit more complicated. You can also program a command that'll make it easier to get back home. And that's one of the principles we teach. We teach people to get back home because it helps in terms of navigation and orientation. Because you can get easily frustrated when you're first learning this, okay? So previously, before VoiceOver was turned on, I swiped right and left, and it toggled me between different pages, okay? But now, when I swipe right, it's gonna move me one item.
Photos. Camera. Notes.
And that's simply, again,
Double tap to open. Use 3D touch to show.
That's simply a swipe right.
Calendar. Third clock. 7.
And the exercise that I recommend in terms of becoming familiar with VoiceOver is exploring all of the different apps on your screen, swiping right until you get to the last app.
Speak screen.
And swiping left until you get to the last, the first app.
Messages.
Okay, that way the person becomes familiar with their digital environment here. Okay, that's our one finger commands. Our one finger commands are our navigation commands because they move us one item at a time. And we now notice that the way the operating system functions is differently now when we have VoiceOver enabled, and that's important to note. Okay, so those are one finger commands. The other one finger command is how do you enter an app? So with VoiceOver disabled, we simply tap on the screen and we will enter that specific application. Well, now if I tap on that particular spot,
Messages. One unread message.
it
Double tap to open. Use 3D touch to show.
it tells me what the app is, and it also gives me information about the app. But in order for me to enter the app, I will need to double tap. The best place to double tap is the center of your screen. It gives you the best results. And that's what we tell our clients. Find the specific item you want the voiceover focus to be on. What's the voiceover focus? Well, the voiceover focus is this box here, or where the focus is, or the last place your screen reader told you where you were. But where I am pressing is going to be here.
Books.
Okay? Right now, my voiceover focus is there, but that's where I'm going to be pressing because it's usually what gives me the best results. Again, I'm going to put messages up here.
Messages. One unread message.
Now I'm going to double
Double tap
tap.
to open.
I'm going to double tap in a totally separate location.
Messages. Back button.
It opened my messages. Now I'm going to go and swipe up from the bottom center and wait for the second beep and that haptic feedback.
Message.
Okay, that brought me back home. Again, home is the safest place to be because I know exactly where I am. And it's very easy to get frustrated when you're first learning how to use voiceover, particularly, you know, everybody's different when they come to MABVI and when they start receiving services. Some folks have more computer knowledge than others. Some folks are not as comfortable using smart devices. And so everybody's coming from a different background. So, you know, really trying to make this very user-friendly so someone can get comfortable. The slogan that I don't find cliche at all, and I really like at MABVI that we use, is living confidently with vision loss. And so that's what we try to do with the technology side of things, is to make folks feel comfortable using their device, because that really adds a great deal of value to their lives. Okay, so I'm gonna go back here. And now that we did those are the commands for one finger. So pretty straightforward, right? That, you know, now we sort of get it. Now, let's say I want to read something. I go down here and
Messages. Back button. Messages. Doc. Mail. 19 unread emails. Double tap to open.
Let's go
Use 3D
here.
touch to show how.
Okay.
Mail. Exchange edit. Button. Paul and Andrew. Regarded Paul and David. Black. Darren. Evie Dull. Forward. Presentation video update toolbar. Updated just now. Updated just now. Compose. Button.
Okay.
Double Paul and Andrew.
So I'm
Regarded.
just gonna double
Select.
tap this. Okay. This is
Looks
just
great, guys.
look. This is an email that I got. So I can swipe to the specific location and it could read the information to me.
Thanks.
Okay.
Actions available.
Or I can do something called the say all command. And this will read all of the information to me. Now the difference is I'm not using one finger anymore. I'll be using two fingers. And you swipe down from the top left-hand corner of the screen and it will read comprehensively to you. So let's do that.
Thanks. Andrew, for tomorrow. Can you pause the video for 10 seconds at the end so people can read the thank you slide? Jerry Feliz access tech.
Okay, so it would have read everything on the screen had I not stopped it. Again, this will be a two-finger command. It's just your index finger and your middle finger, and you tap the center of the screen and it will silence it, okay? So those are the most important two-finger commands. The other one that's kind of important but a little bit more challenging to do is called your scrub. So, for example, a scrub.
Jerry,
Yes.
we're at 7:35, so if you want to wrap it up a little bit and then allow for questions and answers,
Okay, sure. So let me finish with the two-finger scrub, and then people feel free to chime in and ask any questions. So a scrub is just a horizontal with two fingers left to right, and it functions almost as your escape key with your keyboard. I'll just demonstrate that real quick and be happy to take questions.
Paul and Andrew.
So you can see how helpful that was.
Paul and David. Video.
Okay.
Switcher. Paul and David. Doc.
All right. I'll stop the share, and people feel free to ask any questions they like.
Alert. Accessibility shortcuts. Guided access. Doc. May alert. Accessibility shortcuts. Switch control selected. Voiceover. Voiceover off.
So if, at this time, if anyone has any questions, feel free to use the chat box, or if you want to ask them by unmuting your microphone, go ahead.
Hi, Jerry. This is Kathy. Can I ask you a couple questions?
Oh, absolutely. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, nice to talk to you again. I was wondering, what size font do you use, if I may ask? What do you find easy for yourself?
It's customization, so it's really contingent upon the situation.
How
So like
person with low vision, like Tony?
So okay, for example, it's the situation, right? So if I'm doing a presentation, I'll have the text size pretty large. So we're talking about 3 or 4 words per line. And that's how I'll be able to read from a comfortable distance of about 6 inches to a foot away,
Right.
at least with my vision. But like I said, everybody's vision is very different.
Right.
But customizing the text
Yeah.
size. And one way that I go about doing, so like when folks come in for an assessment, we do something called a Cctv assessment.
Oh, yeah.
Just basically allows us to see the level of magnification that the person needs. So it's 5, 6x, what have you. We also can see the type of font size that works best for them, whether it's 12 font, 24 font, etc., and the distance they are from the screen. And that gives us some pretty helpful information on their functional vision at the time, because it really depends on the person if their vision is changing,
Yeah.
or whatever other circumstances are around that.
Right. I can see how that would be specialized. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think I have a Android, and I was following you because what you were showing on the Apple will be helpful for me to help those I'm helping. But I was looking at my phone while you were doing that under the accessibility, and it said speech controller on mine, and I tried to follow it and get it to work, but it was a little different, so I'll play around with it on my own, but it didn't start talking like yours was doing when you were doing it.
So for Android, it's called TalkBack.
Okay, I'll write that down and just look into it more on my own.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Good to talk to you. Yeah, okay, I'm done. Thank you. I'll mute myself.
Thank you. Next. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, so we're going to jump back in. Jerry is going to start with the second half of his presentation, and then after that, we will give another time for questions.
Okay.
So go ahead, Jerry.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to sort of switch over here from iOS to Mac, and then hopefully we have enough time for Windows. If we don't, that's fine. So let's do this. I'm going to share using my phone again, because I do want folks to be able to see this. So got to get back into the Zoom session. And I don't see myself here. Oh, there I am. Okay. Okay, share. screen start broadcast. Okay, great. All right, hopefully this works well. So this is comprehensive magnification. Okay, and what I've done is I've enabled some settings that allows me to do that. Again, with the simple exercise that I did earlier, I'm going to just explore my home screen and the four corners. Top left-hand corner, top right-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner, and center. And that helps someone get familiar with that, their home screen environment. You can also press F4 on a Mac and then explore all of the different apps. So you're basically replicating the same exercise that we did on iOS or your iPhone, because you're exploring an app and then you're zooming in to do your scan reading. Okay. There's a couple of different settings for comprehensive magnification on your Mac. And that's going to go top left-hand corner, system preferences. Then I'm going to go to accessibility. Again, what's nice about on the Mac side, everything that you have on your iPhone, you're going to have access on your MacBook or iPad because they're built into the operating system. So I'm going to go down to Zoom, and what I'm going to do is switch from full screen to something called split screen. Okay, so this is where I could have half of my screen magnified, and I don't think it took, so I have to do this again. Okay, didn't do a very good job of that. So let's go here again. Let's do picture in picture. Should have done a split screen. So here it's doing a better job of the split screen. So half of my screen is zoomed in and half of my screen is not. So this could be a good way to get someone familiar with magnification, where one portion of your screen is going to be familiar to you, because it does take some getting used to use magnification, at least comprehensive magnification. So I'm going to go back and toggle back to full screen here. 1 second. Okay, full screen. There we go. I'm just going to quickly switch over from my iPhone to my Mac. I just wanted folks to see functionally how that works, because when we use it, when I share my screen on my Mac, it's not going to actually do that. It will only show me the zoom. All right, so I'm going to just quickly toggle to my Mac on Zoom. So just bear with me for one more second. Okay. Zoom. There we go. Share. Okay. So now I'm just directly sharing my screen with my Mac. Okay, I am actually zoomed in right now, but it isn't showing it. Okay. So if you're gonna set up specific settings for your Mac, I'm gonna kind of go through what settings I would recommend that is going to be the best use for Zoom on your Mac. So we want to enable your keyboard shortcuts, and There they are right there. Then we want to enable use scroll gesture with modifier keys. This allows you to simply hold control, take 2 fingers, swipe up or down with the trackpad, and then you can customize the size of your zoom or magnification levels. Okay, we covered this earlier, full screen versus the other different settings, which is split screen and picture in picture. All right. Now, this can be a helpful tool. It's enable hover text. So just by simply pressing the command key, I can hover over information and it will enlarge it quite a bit. So if I hold down, let's see, there we go. I'm just holding down command and I can move around and it will, increase the size of that quite a bit. Could be a pretty helpful tool, and it may have you use much less levels of magnification. Again, anybody that's a really strong user of magnification is going to be a person that toggles between the different magnification levels. So I'm going to shut that off for now. Then I'm going to go into advanced. And this is a setting here that I highly recommend. You want to enable continuously. So let me read this. It says, when zoomed in, the screen image moves. So you want it continuously with pointer. That will provide you the best results. Smooth images, you do want enabled, and follow keyboard focus. So what does that basically mean? So for example, if I want to use Spotlight, which again is a search function, which is a principle of navigation and orientation, which helps us expedite finding things. You press Command and Spacebar. The keyboard focus and your zoom focus moves to that particular area. So you don't have to look around. You can just simply do it with a keyboard. And when you're magnified, that actually makes a really big difference as far as finding what you're looking for. All right, so now I'm going to hit my escape key. Then go down here. So we want follow keyboard focus. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to hit OK. Okay. All right. So that's it for zoom. Now, another feature that's extremely helpful when we talk about a combination of magnification and screen reading is speech. And I can remember the days where these features weren't there, but thank God for inclusive design, because now I don't have to pay $700 or over $1,000 for specialized software. Taking into account accessibility when you are in the process of design has really changed the digital environment for people with visual impairments. So speech, I can choose the voice that I want. I do recommend either the Siri female or male. It's just really high quality voice. Or there's one that I really like as well. Her name is Ava. Really good voice. I think I have her selected. Okay, then here's the speech rate. And then this also enable announcements. This will read announcements to me like calendar announcements. Okay, so this below, we do want to select speak selected text when these keys are pressed. And so I've enabled that. Here's where you could customize the key. The key that I recommend using is Shift Spacebar. Ergonomically, it's just easy to get to. You don't have to like stretch your fingers really far, so it's easy to do. Okay, so let's say I want to read the class outline. Okay, so here we go. Here's my Notes app. Okay, that's not my Notes app. This is, well, I'll just read this document here. Okay, I could simply just press Shift and Spacebar.
You are invited. You are invited to attend an online webinar presented by the Massachusetts Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired about access technology services in the metro.
So then I just simply press Shift and Spacebar. And that allows me to just pause it. And again, this is screen reading on demand. Okay. The other feature here that's extremely helpful is, before I get to that, I do want to pause. As you see me navigating back and forth, and this would apply to Windows as well, I use multiple desktops. Again, this is a navigation and orientation principle. So let's say I'm looking for a calendar date, right? And then I needed to plug it into an Excel file. So I'll quickly open up Excel. Okay. This is really helpful if you have low vision. This is helpful if you don't have low vision. I mean, one of the beautiful things about inclusive design, universal design. So just FYI, universal design, for those that aren't aware, it's that concept where you a wheelchair ramp was designed, and it's an architectural concept. It's a ramp was designed for someone with a wheelchair. Well, however, it benefits someone, a parent, using a stroller to, you know, to bring someone into a building, or to bring their child into a building. Or let's say you're temporarily disabled. You had knee surgery. Well, you can benefit from that ramp as well. And so it's just really good design, but everybody benefits from that. Well, this is also really good design as well. This is more of a navigation principle here, but we can apply it in the larger application. I maybe fit this into the accessibility application just because it has a lot of functionality that's very helpful. Because now if you're zoomed in at a really high level of magnification, you can simply toggle back and forth. Let's say you have to copy the date and plug it in here into the Excel file. You can just go back and forth easily instead of having to, I don't know, hit Control Tab and go back and forth, or select it with your mouse. So just another good design principle that helps expedite completing a specific task. Okay, so I was going to go back here to our system preferences, then go back. Our path is accessibility, and then go here to, let's go here to dictation. So that would be voiceover, Zoom, speech, description. Where are we? Oh, they changed it. That's right. It was called dictation. Now it's called voice control. So you can use voice control to now, and again, this goes for all of your applications, to simply type in your the speech, output your emails, or perform different functions. So for example, if I wanted to, and this may not work because I'm on Zoom, but it is a great feature, and I would recommend going to that setting and enabling it. So let's, I'm back in my notes. Let's say I want to plug in something here. I'm going to hit some space and say, I have really enjoyed going over basic native accessibility functionality. New line. New line. Thank you for having me. Period. And then I just simply hit my function key. That's my modifier key that I've enabled to turn this dictation feature on. So again, this is another really helpful native accessibility function in iOS. Okay.
And Jerry, it is 7:55. So if you want to wrap it up, and then we can answer any questions.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Nisha. So some other native accessibility settings to keep in mind, at least as it pertains to the Mac, you can simply hit a shortcut key and it will give you access to, let's see.
Accessibility options.
So that's control, command.
Use the
Actually,
tab key to navigate
that's
and press
command.
space to toggle an option.
So that's Command Option F5, and it brings up all of these different accessibility settings that you can enable. One that's really helpful, let's say you have issues with white background or white text, you can simply invert the colors or enable color filters. And so it doesn't look like we're going to get to Windows, but in Windows, you do have ease of access. And all of the different settings that I've gone over on the Mac side and on your iOS devices, these are settings that are in the ease of access menu for Windows, and you can enable those. And it will provide you a much better user experience when trying to get familiar with accessibility settings. But they're very user-friendly. My recommendation is have a particular task in mind that you want.
Alert from calendar. Oration pod embrace.
That's my announcement.
Alert from calendar. Zoom link for it training.
Okay, we can see accessibility into effect. So again, just in closing with this piece, find a specific task that you want to do, something really simple, whether it's writing a note, whether it's exploring your home screen, using accessibility features. It's just finding a task that you can easily go over. And the reality is it takes a lot of repetition. Some of these things take quite a bit of time just to get familiar, particularly if you're not, if technology isn't something that you love, if it's, obviously everybody has different proclivities, but these are all game-changing, life-changing solutions that give people back a huge sense of independence and freedom. So thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And before we take any questions, Jerry, can you just suggest a few apps that may be user-friendly that they can use with their consumers or with people that are blind or visually impaired?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these we actually have on the website. So on the MABVI website, if you go to AT, we'll have some of the trainings on these devices. I think Rachel did one on Google Lookout, and one of our OTs, Elise, did one on Seeing AI. So feel free to check those out. And those are really good optical character recognition apps. And so all that is, in layman's terms, you take a picture of something, it digitizes the information, and then it'll read it back to you. So mail becomes more accessible. Heck, even some handwritten information can be read with Seeing AI. And it even describes background scenes. You can also, with those apps, you can take digital information that's not accessible or PDFs that haven't been tagged. So that means it can't be read, and they can be processed within the app, and then the app will read the information back to you. As far as navigation apps go, I do like, trying to remember, Soundscape. So both Soundscape and Seeing AI are Microsoft-based solutions that work on your iOS device. Google Lookout is going to work for your Android-based, your Android devices. And so those are really some top devices, top apps that help folks out. Other apps that are not that are good apps to kind of keep in mind because they keep people informed. It's getting folks connected with NFB, Newsline, and Bard Mobile, and you can do that too by connecting with Perkins or actually for both, you can just connect with Perkins and ask them to set you up with those. I think they even do Audible as well. And those are non-paid services. As long as you get connected with Perkins, you can get connected to those resources as well.
Thank you, Jerry. So it is 8 o'clock. I just want to allow, if anyone has any questions, we can take a few questions. Like I mentioned before, this is recorded, so you can always come back and revisit this at our resource pages. And if you don't have any questions now and you think of it later, you can always reach out to Jerry, Ali, or myself, or Kyle, or anyone that you do have contact with, and we can point you in the right directions to get your questions answered. But we can go ahead and take a few questions right now if anyone has any.
Okay, I have a couple if no one else does. I'll wait if somebody else does them.
Go ahead, Patricia.
I was wondering if it was possible through the phone app to read, for example, Gmail and respond if you don't have any, if you're completely blind. Is that something you could do exclusively with voice command?
So voice command, you mean the speech to text command that you're just using voice to respond to an email?
Yeah, so that would be the speech function then if you wanted to respond to an email and read an email?
Yeah, you can do that with voice control.
Okay.
And Windows actually has speech recognition as well. And I'm gonna say with this a small caveat, you should be able to do that with voice. It's not called voice control; it's called speech recognition on the Windows platform, and in iOS, it's the same thing. It's called voice control. So yes, you can answer solely with the use of voice control commands.
Okay. And for Mac computers, is it possible to just open your Gmail or your email, for example, exclusively with voice command?
Yes, you can do that. And they actually have a list of commands that you can look at as well.
Okay.
My recommendation would be this, though, just looking at this technology for years, I would recommend having your Gmail account in the email client or the email filter that or the mail app basically that comes with iOS, because it's native to the operating system. My thought would be that you'd have better results than using your Gmail on your browser and using the Gmail app. And that's also true of iOS. If you use the mail app, you're going to find that the font typography, the font size and scaling works better in the iOS app versus Gmail. Some of it, the Gmail app on iOS.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, good question.
Kathy, did you have a question?
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Yep.
I have a couple. Let's see. Oh, one thing when practicing with person I'm helping on the voice control is when making corrections and using that. Sometimes it's of course I'm trying to not help them as much. So when making corrections, like when I'm typing, I can see if there's an error, but it's hard. So then if they're wanting to say delete, then it deletes like the sentence or the whole paragraph. And even when that person's daughter was there helping, because they're more used to the Apple, since they, all there together, she was just trying it, saying, I tried this a couple times on my own, and her, who's fully sighted, it was like she was having some difficulty with it. I don't know if you ran into any roadblocks, if you have any tips for that.
I can tell you I've experienced a lot of the same thing. I mean, it's not, it takes some getting used to and training with that.
Okay.
Obviously, you want to avoid background noise, but like identifying the specific text. So, for example, you know how I read the information earlier. Have the person read the information with the on-demand screen reading function of the MacBook or the PC. Then after they've done that, have them specifically choose the sentence that they want selected and try to select the information that way.
By highlighting
So, come again?
By highlighting it.
Yeah, by highlighting it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, find out what the highlight command is and then isolate that particular piece of information. But it is nuanced.
Yeah, okay, we'll just work around that. All right. Let's see. And then I was confused about the shift and space bar. At first, I thought you said it makes it talk, and then I thought you said it makes it pause.
It does both.
Oh, okay. And then just the
Yeah,
last.
you're right. You're right.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. And then thank you. And then just one more thing, and that's it. You're talking about the scrub button. Or not button. Scrub is just the escape button, right? Another word.
So the context for the scrub function is within Voiceover specifically. And this is a 2-finger gesture.
Okay.
And I'm just going to do it on my phone here. It's a 2-finger gesture.
Yeah.
Going left to right.
Okay.
And it allows you to go back typically within whichever application that you're in. So let's say you're on the 3rd page of your email app, notes, it will take you back to the 1st page, or settings, it'll take you back. So it's a really good function. The principle here is that it's taking you back to a place that you're familiar with, because familiarity is huge, because it's always good to be at a place that you're comfortable, that you know, and it helps in terms of not getting frustrated, because remember, someone's learning this technology with vision loss.
Oh, yeah.
So they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot. So that's why I always take people back to the home page. Because you can start over, and that's an accomplishment in and of itself, just to get back to a place of familiarity.
Right, not to get frustrated. Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Kat.
Thank you. Good questions. In the interest of time, if there's any more other questions, I would just ask for them to be emailed, just because we're running over time. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry is wonderful, phenomenal. He knows his stuff. So if anyone has any other questions, please feel free, like I said, to email myself, Ali, or Jerry, or Kyle, or whoever you have a contact with here at MAB. We're here to answer your questions. I'm going to turn over the last few minutes over to Ali.
Thanks, Jerry. That was amazing. And yeah, I just want to remind people that Jerry and Rachel, they can help you out, you and your consumer match. You guys can do it together, or we can just put them in touch with your consumer match so that they can help, with whatever it is that they have a specific need for or want to learn specifically. So if you need or think that's something you want to do, just let me know, or let Nisha know, or anyone who you're in contact with, and we'll put you in contact with Jerry and Rachel, and they'll be able to help you out with any specific need. So that resource is always available to you guys. And then I just wanted to say that in the volunteer world, we have Volunteer Appreciation Week is next week. So that's very exciting. We want to appreciate all of our volunteers. So please look out for an email from the volunteer department, and we will be debuting a whole resource page that we've been putting together for you guys, with a bunch of other various trainings and just resources for you to browse should you need it. And those will be debuting next week. Also, this recording will be up on those pages. So you'll all be able to see this again if you need to. All right, so that is it in volunteer news. And if you guys found this helpful, definitely we want to hear from you. We can do this again. We want to make sure we're providing you guys with the resources you need. So this was our first try at it. So hopefully it was helpful for you guys. I learned a lot. So we can do this again in the future.
Thank you. It was very rewarding doing this so far, my experiences.
Thanks, guys. All right. Well, have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.